Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the benevolent lineage masters. The supreme Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered, even in millions of eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, may we all generate the supreme bodhicitta. Now we'll continue to study the words of my perfect teacher. In the words of my perfect teacher, we first study the 4 common preliminary practices. Within the 4 common preliminary practices, the teaching on the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages has been introduced previously. Of course, I've introduced the content to you through the text. As for how well you are practicing in reality, it is up to you. Now we move to the second preliminary practice, the impermanence of life. First, Patrul Rinpoche put a homage prayer here. He praised his guru's realization and great qualities in front of each chapter. Here's the verse of praise and homage to his root guru. Seeing this threefold world as a fleeting illusion, you have left this life's concerns behind like spittle in the dust. Accepting all hardships, you have followed in the footsteps of the masters of old. Peerless teacher, at your feet I bow. This is by the author Patrul Rinpoche, paying homage to his root guru Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu. At the same time, we should also regularly pray to our gurus during the course of practice. When praying to our guru, we can visualize in our minds any guru in the lineage and use this verse for prayer. Many practitioners of Tibetan Buddhism in the past all used this verse to praise and pray to their gurus. So in our daily practice, for example, when you meditate on impermanence today, you start with the practice of guru yoga. Then when you actually begin meditating on impermanence, you should again put your palms together and pray to your root guru. With the help of the guru's blessing, may the conviction of the impermanence of life truly arise in my mind. It is absolutely necessary to pray and homage with fervent faith. Here speaks of his root guru, Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu. What exactly was he like? In reality, with his wisdom, he directly perceived all the form realm, formless realm, and desire realm. All these 3 realms of samsara, he perceived them entirely as a fleeting illusion. Emptiness, no self, and impermanence in nature. Not even the slightest truly existent or inherently existing phenomena. With his wisdom, he fully realized that all phenomena are impermanent and illusory appearances. Because of such realization, he completely abandoned all the trivialities of this world, including glory, wealth, and status, everything. During his practice, he discarded them like spittle in the dust, without attachment or desire. In Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu's biography, it says that he didn't have any envy or desire, not even for a split second, for the various manifestation before him. Let it be of all the worldly beauty akin to heavenly beings, or wealth resembling that of a Naga king. Indeed, I recently read the biography Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu. It was truly wonderful. From his childhood until his parinirvana, his faith in the Dharma, his pursuit of the authentic Dharma, and his forgoing of the 8 worldly concerns is beyond the imagination of ordinary people like us. Such a great accomplished master, practicing such austerities and being so devoted to his guru, wholeheartedly and unwavering throughout his entire life. His guru, Jigme Gyalwai Nyugu, completely renounced all worldly phenomena, and in terms of studying and practicing the Dharma, he had been following in the footsteps of the past eminent masters, persevering with ascetic practices. We can see from the biographies of many masters that practicing the Dharma indeed requires asceticism. Nowadays, many people wish to attain realizations of the Dharma very easily, comfortably, and happily, Of course, when certain conditions are met, realization isn't impossible. But there are some rare individuals who seem to think that they just need to sit there and enjoy all the favorable conditions delivered to them. They don't need to spend money, time, or effort, and can achieve enlightenment without doing anything at all. Sometimes, even when the Dharma is delivered right to their doorstep, they're still unwilling to accept it. There are such unreasonable behaviors. So if we really read the biographies of these great masters and see how diligent and sincere they were in their pursuit of learning, how can we not be diligent ourselves in this respect? When we think about how extraordinary these past masters were, they pursued the Dharma while completely renouncing worldly concerns. They understood both ultimate emptiness and relative impermanence. If we claim to be disciples of these masters, but looking at ourselves, we probably feel extremely embarrassed about our state of mind and unable to justify ourselves. Therefore, we should reflect on how our lineage masters genuinely possessed such qualities. I often think that this verse truly reflects the virtuous qualities of our guru, Jigme Rinpoche, seeing the nature of the threefold world in his wisdom, and indeed possessing such virtues in terms of impermanence, regarding this life's worldly concerns as spittle in the dust, having not the slightest desire for all the pleasures in this life that worldly people like, accepting all hardships for Dharma practice throughout his life, and his diligence completely matching the footsteps of the past eminent masters. Hence, our guru is truly unmatched by anyone else. Whether it is his power of blessings, wisdom, or state of realization, from every aspect, encountering such a great teacher in our lifetime is extremely fortunate and rare. So we should not just pay lip service saying, "Hello, Guru, I have great faith in you." Instead, from the depths of our hearts, we should bow in great veneration with body, speech, and mind before such a root guru who has supreme qualities. At the same time, pray wholeheartedly, may all the states of the difficulty of finding the freedoms and advantages, impermanence, and so forth, and all the states of preliminary practices and main practices in my guru's mind stream soon merge into mine right here on this very seat. May I too follow in the footsteps of the past eminent masters and attain the same fruition as my great guru did. We should make such aspirations. This is the homage prayer. As I have mentioned many times during our practice, we should not separate from prayer and aspirations. Recently, we have been studying a guide to the words of my perfect teacher together. Some analogies and similes in the text might be slightly difficult to understand, but the meanings it conveys are entirely from the wisdom mind of an enlightened being, far surpassing that of articles written by many worldly people, full of discursive thoughts via different means. So, when you read this guidebook with fervent faith and pure wisdom, you should be able to obtain the state of realization in your own minds. The difference in authors is very significant. For example, when a guru transmits teaching, if this guru truly has great compassion or conviction about impermanence in the mind, then each disciple will definitely receive benefits and obtain various levels of realization. Similarly, when we read a book, whether the author has realized the nature of all phenomena also has a significant impact. Therefore, while we practice Ngondro, the preliminary practices this time, I suggest everyone to study A Guide to the Words of My Perfect Teacher together. By doing so, I also believe many of you will change your mind streams from before. From a worldly perspective, you will become more complete, refined, and virtuous. The very rigid and difficult to tame personalities should gradually become gentle and mellow. And your faith in the Dharma and virtuous practices will steadily grow, and you will not have much grasping to all the worldly phenomena even when there are conflicts and disputes arise between people, you will be able to easily resolve and renounce them from within. Therefore, whether our practice integrates with our minds is up to us. If we don't merge with the teachings within, our study of the Dharma becomes superficial. It is like attending a worldly university or graduate school nowadays. There are some courses and formal studies that often stay at the surface level. Students spend their days pursuing beautiful language rather than true understanding. As for truly taming the mind, neither the author of textbooks nor the teachers have considered it, and the students, even more so, have no opportunities. So our approach for the teaching this time completely follows the style of practical guidance. I can also say that this explanation provided for the words of my perfect teacher should be considered quite comprehensive, because without realization, there is no way to go deeper. In fact, there are still many more profound treasures within, but my own tools are limited. Therefore, I try my very best to excavate according to my own abilities. The treasures that I dig out I found very precious, and I share them with you, the Dharma friends who have karmic connections with me. For the parts that I have not revealed in this teaching, they await you, my Dharma friends, to discover through your own faith and wisdom. Therefore, the guidance for meditating on impermanence is indeed very important. During the process of study and practice, do not forget to pray and make aspirations. Meanwhile, the content within should be remembered clearly, word by word, and then proceed with contemplation and meditation. Of course, this practice, as we usually say, includes both analytical meditation and calm abiding meditation. Please do not neglect these two methods, because at first, many beginners just cannot abide in meditative state, and they have not yet obtained the insight of analytical meditation. So in every practice, you should start with the analytical meditation, and then alternate periods of analytical with periods of calm abiding meditation. In the end, you can naturally abide in the meditative state. This method applies to whatever practice you are undertaking. Mifam Rinpoche has explained this very clearly in the Beacon of Certainty. For some Dharma friends at the beginning, you may not be able to meditate on impermanence. This indicates you haven't yet reached the state of calm abiding. Therefore, you should read the text over and over again, and contemplate the meaning over and over again, and undertake analytical meditation. This is called practice. On the surface, it seems like we are analyzing and exploring, but in reality, this kind of development of wisdom is also regarded as practice. This is a way to delve into the deeper meaning through careful examinations. So, when we practice, we must follow the supreme methods passed down by eminent lineage masters. Now, we will comprehensively discuss the impermanence of life from 7 aspects. First is the impermanence of the outer phenomenal universe in which sentient beings live. Our outer world is formed by beings' collective karma. This includes the 4 continents, Mount Meru, the heavenly realms, and the Iron Mountain. People think these are indestructible. True, they may last for many kalpas, yet they too are impermanent. In the end, they will be destroyed by 7 fires and 1 flood. This refers to the collective karma and merit of all beings in our Sahar world, forms the outer 4 continents, including Mount Meru, the Iron Mountain, and the entire landscape. All the outer universes are formed by beings' collective karma. Such collective karma of sentient beings is truly inconceivable. For example, the hell realms are formed by the group karma of hell beings. And whether it's Jambudvipa or Uttarakuru, or in modern terms, whether it's China or the United States or any country in the world, each nation's external environment is formed by its inhabitants' collective karma and merit. Including Larangar, the academy with the fourfold assembly, is a world formed by the collective karma and merit of many sentient beings. We can put it this way. These outer environments can last for many kalpas, but ultimately, they too are impermanent. Nothing remains constant forever. These are all conditioned phenomena, and conditioned things cannot exist permanently. Eventually, they will be destroyed by 7 stages of fires, one of water and one of wind completely. In the end, everything becomes as how it was said in A Precious Garland for the 4 Themes, completely empty like space, with nothing remaining. So when we observe the outer world, we should remember that although it appears solid and indestructible, in reality it is formed by our collective karma and will be destroyed when the time comes. According to some scientists, including astronomers and geographers, in their theories, the entire macro-universe in which we live, the whole galaxy, the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, are all in constant motion and are changing in every instant. These scientists also acknowledge the impermanence of the outer universe. For example, the Earth has already existed for over 4 billion years. The Sun's age is about 5 billion years. And after many more years, they will come to an end. Although many scientists have different theories, and the views of earlier scientists differ from those of later ones, none of them claim that the astronomical objects, despite the solidity, would remain eternally balanced, permanent, and unchanging. There is no such a claim. So ultimately, we all recognize that the outer world is impermanent, including the secular academic community. It is a shared view. Therefore, when we think about it, generally speaking, a grand viewpoint among astronomers is not usually shared by general audience like us, who are not experts in this field and have never studied it. Without a grand perspective, we are only concerned about our container of living, our house. We may be wondering, will my house collapse? What will really happen to it? Because our vision is narrow and our mind is limited, we are like ants and small insects that are only concerned about their own nests. Beyond that, they neither know nor care about the vast world outside. So many of our Dharma friends here may have never considered this before. When I was in middle school, my classmates and I never paid proper attention whenever we had geography classes. I have to say, at that time when we had geography classes, we didn't listen to the teacher. And when exams were approaching, we would cut out relevant parts of the geography textbook in pieces and hide them in our sleeves so that we could peek at them during the exam. That was when we were young. Many children might have thought they found an opportunity here. But don't cheat like that. It is the 21st century now. It was the 20th century when we were middle school students. So the entire outer world is indeed impermanent. A Dharma friend once told me that after studying the 6th chapter of the Wish-Fulfilling Treasury on the kalpas of destruction and voidness, he generated a strong sense of impermanence. When looking at the mountain on the opposite side, he thought, the whole outer environment is impermanent. Although this mountain before me looks so spectacular and grand, it is nonetheless impermanent, and at a certain point it will be gone. Similarly, when I see some tall buildings, I often think, this building is supported with steel and concrete and appears very sturdy. It seems that it can last for a few decades or even a few hundred years. However, since all conditioned things are impermanent, this building will not escape final destruction in the end. Therefore, we should have a clear understanding and conviction about impermanence from a comprehensive perspective. Many people in the world today lack a sense of impermanence. Without this sense of impermanence, they keep postponing their Dharma practices and end up failing to achieve anything. This is why many practitioners of the Kadampa tradition focus their main efforts on contemplating impermanence. If a practitioner cultivates a strong conviction about impermanence, they will certainly be diligent and avoid oversleeping. They won't make excuses with meaningless worldly affairs and say, "I'm too busy to study now." This shows they haven't properly contemplated impermanence. If one has not practiced impermanence well, no matter how many empowerments or profound pith instructions they have received, they will just leave them in books or for future hopes. Beyond that, they won't actually really practice it. Therefore, these eminent masters of the past placed great importance on the teachings of impermanence. Of course, we should integrate practice with theory throughout the training. In the mind stream of every sentient being, there are countless attachments to inherent existence. Some people think, "I do agree that my body is indeed impermanent, but the outer universe is so vast, can it be possibly destroyed all at once?" We acknowledge the outer universe won't be destroyed within a day or two, but ultimately its nature is not permanent. After knowing this, we can further realize through inference that whether it's the outer environment we live in or the body and mind we have, all of it will be destroyed and gone in the end. Therefore, we will truly generate great renunciation toward this illusion-like world. This renunciation is the best ally of our practice. So we sincerely hope that the realizations from each guidance in the words of my perfect teacher will arise within you as an inner state. Once you've obtained these states of experience, you will surely perfect your practice without obstacles in between. Today, while talking with a Dharma friend, I said this from the bottom of my heart. Sometimes I feel very fortunate because when I first came to Larunga, I began my study and practice with the words of my perfect teacher, rather than through other forms of knowledge. Debates and discussions are all very important. But we must start with the mind-training teachings such as the words of my perfect teacher and the way of the Bodhisattva. In my mind, the practice of the words of my perfect teacher is truly the most important in one's lifetime. Without laying a solid foundation through this practice, it is like building a grand and magnificent building on loose soil, then making all kinds of splendid interior decorations without considering what the foundation is like at all. For now, while you're decorating, you might feel, "Oh, this is wonderful. Look at the materials used and the patterns inside are very beautiful." I'm not criticizing any specific teacher here. After all, each teacher has his or her own way to tame disciples and grant blessings. However, there are some cases now, well, I personally feel that without a solid foundation in preliminary practices, even if you give them many empowerments and teach them the instructions on the great perfection or Chan practice, and when you are in the process of teaching, the fortunate disciples may also appear to have a good understanding, bringing joy to both the teacher and the disciples. "Ah, you really understood. You are a truly superior student. Shall I give my seal of approval and pass on all my teachings to you?" The teacher seems very confident in the disciples, and the disciples express endless gratitude and are deeply thankful to the teacher. "Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Without you, Venerable One, how could I have attained realization?" But after some time, maybe 2 years later, the relationship between the teacher and disciple changes. Eventually, this beautiful mansion of realization in disciples' mind stream gradually fall into ruin bit by bit without the solid foundation. In the end, not a trace of realization remains. Such a phenomenon is quite common these days. Therefore, I sincerely wish and hope every Dharma friend won't just pay lip service to the preliminaries, but follow the example of Patrul Rinpoche and our guru Phuntsok Rinpoche. First, not just superficially, but really regard Ngondro as a very important practice deep within your minds. If only this foundation is well laid, whatever you practice later whether the 5 great treatises, Sutrayana or Tantrayana, wherever you go to spread the Dharma and benefit sentient beings, you will not be easily bound by various external circumstances. Because once you have practiced preliminaries well, for example, if you have conviction about impermanence, when you encounter temptations in the city, you can easily see through their nature. Even if you, as an ordinary person, generate afflictions due to habitual tendencies of past lives, such afflictions won't stay for too long. Because your conviction about impermanence and foundation of Ngondro is very sturdy. It's like a warrior can immediately recover after falling to the ground. A practitioner will immediately guard the mind through vigilance and mindfulness when encountering any obstacles. And such power of the mind is very strong. Now, for some practitioners, whenever they encounter obstacles, the power of their own virtuous roots is very weak, while the evil power of the Maras is so overwhelming. Why is this? It's because the state our Ngondro practice in our minds is rather fragile, and when the power of our mind is not strengthened, it is very difficult to counter the enemies of adversity. Having said that, the outer universe is doomed to destruction. The causes and conditions for destruction include, on the one hand, everything is impermanent, so it will be gone once the causes and conditions are exhausted. On the other hand, beings commit serious misdeeds. Some sutras also say that this is the reason for the occurrence of destructive disasters, such as fire. For example, the Sutra of the Great Conflagration says, "When the disasters of fire happen, beings all commit misdeeds, uphold wrong views, reject virtues, and engage in 10 negative actions. Due to these causes and conditions, the disasters of 7 stages of fire and 1 of water will appear in the end." There are such explanations. Anyway, this outer universe where sentient beings live in will definitely vanish sooner or later. Compared with the vast universe, we are tiny lives that are really insignificant. Nevertheless, each of us is a member of Earth on this planet, what they now call citizens of the Earth. The citizens of the Earth also include animals, whether in the sea or on land. All are called the citizens of the Earth. And this world can be called the Earth family, the Earth village. So each of us is a citizen in this Earth village. Yaks are citizens too, so we should be living like neighbors on Earth. All animals are also members of our planet. But now, many people don't realize this. Before disasters of earth, water, fire, and wind even start, perhaps humankind will have already gone extinct due to our own misdeeds. This includes the current destruction of the entire ecosystem, the slaughter of animals, and all the pollution from heavy industries, etc. We can say that now our living space is shrinking and becoming increasingly narrow. So from this perspective, it is indeed impermanent. Now, in many corners of the world, large and small meetings and discussions are being held, attempting to address the living habitat and environmental protection issues. Many conferences are being held internationally and locally in many countries. This is also related to the view of impermanence and the misdeeds of humans. So every Dharma friend, while you are alive on this planet, you have a responsibility to protect your own environment and outer world. For example, if you live in a small room, you should keep your surroundings clean and maintain good hygiene in your living environment, and develop a sense of environmental awareness via different means. This is very important. Now, some groups with relatively low level of awareness only care about their own food and clothing. Other than that, they do not think about or care for their neighbors or the larger environment at all. This is quite awful. On the one hand, each one of us, should care about our surrounding environment and at the same time protect and care for the animals living there with compassion. By doing so, the harmony between humans and nature will naturally increase. If such a harmonious atmosphere appears, celestial beings, non-humans, and many beings will always spread auspicious rains of flowers upon us and will often bring about peace and happiness to people. On the contrary, if human beings think maliciously and act ruthlessly, leading to destruction of the entire natural environment, then all kinds of disasters may occur which humans will suffer from even before the final destruction at the end of the Kalpa. This is also why there have been frequent earthquakes, fires, and many other unpleasant natural and man-made disasters around the world recently. In fact, these are related to the actions of sentient beings. Not only does the Buddhist community think this way, now in Western countries, many commentators and analysts also believe there is a very profound, mysterious connection between humans and nature. But for them, they haven't yet found the key to solve this mystery. However, if you use the Buddhist insights on life and death, impermanence, and dependent origination to observe and analyze, the mystery can be easily solved and can also promote the environmental awareness. There is nothing much more to say about impermanence. It is as simple as that. Specifically, as the current Great Kalpa nears its time of destruction, the beings residing in each realm below the God realm of the first meditative state will gradually disappear, realm by realm, until eventually not a single being remains. As those who have studied the treasury of Abhidharma already know, the destruction of a great kalpa takes 20 medium kalpas. Within these 20 medium kalpas, the destruction of sentient beings lasts for 19 medium kalpas. First, the hell realms begin to empty. For example, those hell beings with extreme heavy karmic debts will then be reborn by their karma to the unintermitted hell or other hells of another universe. Those hell beings with lighter karmic debts will generate some virtuous minds out of the power of their dharmata, the dharma nature at that time, then gradually be reborn as hungry ghosts. Then the hungry ghosts will slowly be reborn as animals, then humans, slowly and gradually ascending. There are such cases. This is how it was explained in the Abhidharma. So from the realms of hells, hungry ghosts, animals, and all the way to the human realm, the beings will progressively disappear. To illustrate, normally for humans to be reborn in the God realm of the first meditative state, they have to practice until they reach and maintain certain meditative concentration. But during the kalpas of destruction, such concentration isn't needed. The meditative state will naturally arise out of the power of dharmata and immediately be reborn in the God realms. This situation is quite common. So first, beings will progressively disappear realm by realm until no one is left below the God realm of the first meditative state. After this, the outer universe begins to destruct. Then 7 suns will rise in the sky, one after the other. And these 7 suns were discussed before. Some scriptures state there will indeed be 7 suns, while other scriptures mention it will be 1 sun with a heat equivalent to 7 suns. There are such explanations. Different scriptures have different explanations. But generally speaking, the viewpoint stated in Longchenpa's wish-fulfilling treasury, and the words of my perfect teacher here, as well as the Dirghagama Sutra from the Han area in China, are completely identical after comparison. The method of destruction of the outer universe described here is slightly different from that in the treasury of Abhidharma. Of course, the words of my perfect teacher is a mind training guidance, and the treasury of Abhidharma, which many of you have already studied, requires detailed analysis, so I don't need to explain here. I have taught the treasury of Abhidharma quite thoroughly before. If you are interested, you can take a look at the commentaries or annotations on it. These are all explained in the 3rd chapter of the Treasury of Abhidharma, so I won't elaborate here. In short, you can read the Dirghagama Sutra when you have time. The Dirghagama Sutra specifically discusses impermanence, especially the method of destruction by 7 suns, which is explained in great detail. When the first sun appears, it will burn up all fruit-bearing trees and forests. When the first sun appears, all the forests, grass, and flowers in the entire world will be completely burned. When the second sun appears, it will evaporate all streams, creeks, and ponds. All the streams in the world, including the small, continuously flowing stream in Larunga, and the water used by many nuns to wash clothes, all of these will vanish. The third sun will dry up all the rivers, including the world's major rivers, such as Ganges River and Niranjana River in India, and the Yangtze River, Jinsha River, and Yellow River in China, etc., will all dry up. And the fourth sun will dry up all the great lakes, even the great Manasarova Lake, without a drop left. Manasarova is a very large lake in India, and it will also dry up in the end. As the fifth sun rises, the great oceans will also evaporate to a depth of 100 yojanas, and progressively to 200, 700, 1,000, 10,000, and finally 80,000 yojanas. Completely dry up. The seawater that is left will shrink from a yojana down to an earshot, until not even enough remains to fill the size of a hoofprint. In the end, even the water collected in a cattle's hoofprint will be gone. All the oceans and small streams in the world will be completely dried up by the heat of several suns. This is truly terrifying, and it will indeed happen. Currently, the scientists describe Earth's final destruction as the sun will gradually expand and heat up, causing all plants on Earth to die in about 1 billion years' time. This is just a different way of describing it. But truly, the entire world will eventually become like this. When 6 suns appear, the whole Earth and its snow mountains will be ablaze. Then the 7th sun rises. It will melt Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the 8 subcontinents, the 7 golden mountains, and the iron mountains. Everything will merge into one massive fire. Not even a speck of dust will remain. As said in the sutra, when the great kalpa approaches the end, the whole universe is doomed to be destroyed. All the mountains will be burned down, and not even one particle of dust will be left. This means that at the end of a great kalpa, the entire outer environment will be completely consumed by fire without leaving a trace. Not even the tiniest particle can be found in this world. The entire outer universe will be completely burned up by flames. Nothing will remain at all. As the swirling fire blazes downwards, it will consume all the hell realms. The flames of the desire realm will eventually swirl downwards to the entire hell realm. There won't be any beings left in the hell realms, so the fire will engulf the inanimate environment of the hells completely. As it flares upwards, it will engulf the celestial palace of Brahma, which is already long abandoned. When the flames rise upwards, the beings in the celestial realms have been reborn elsewhere owing to their karmic forces or the power of dharmata. Leaving the palace empty, these empty palaces will all be burned down. At this point, the outer world has been completely devoured by impermanence. We can put it this way. At this time, the young gods of the clear light realm will cry out in terror, "What a great fire!" Many younger gods are terrified because From the God realm of the second meditative state, they can look down and see the flames from the hell below rushing upwards, and they become very frightened. The elder gods will comfort them, saying, "Do not panic or fear. The fire will stop when it reaches Brahma's realm. This has all happened before." They would comfort the younger gods this way. The treasury of Abhidharma explains this in more detail. They had experienced many times before when the realms, including the God realm of the first concentration and below, were burned. So some experienced elder gods feel that this fire poses no threat to their celestial palaces for now. After 7 such destructions by fire, realms including the God realm of the first concentration and below will all be burned. Rain clouds will form in the realm of the gods of the second concentration. Because the God realm of the second concentration is to be destroyed by the submerging water, dark clouds will form at that time. Then torrential rains will pour from the sky like falling yolks and arrows. Everything will dissolve like salt in water, including all realms up to the gods of clear light. The God realm of the second concentration is destroyed by water. When this realm is closer to the time of its destruction, the beings inhabiting it will have already been reborn elsewhere or move up to the God realm of the third concentration. So the water will just destroy the outer environment. This is the destruction of the God realm of the second concentration. After such devastation by 7 stages of fire and 1 of water is over, the crossed vajra of wind at the base of the universe will rise up. Now begins the destruction of the God realm of the third concentration, starting with the wind wheel emerging from the vajra cross. In fact, at that time there is no earth, only a wind wheel. We know that when the earth forms, it first forms on the wheel of the wind. Like dust scattered by the wind rising, everything up to and including the realm of the gods of the third concentration will be blown away completely. Everything is completely annihilated. So the fire, water, and wind destroy the God realms of the first, second, and third concentration respectively. Everything up to and including the God realms of the first concentration is destroyed by fire. Why is this? According to Buddhist scriptures such as the Treasury of Abhidharma, it is because beings below the second concentration have the features of conception and discernment like fire. So the corresponding God realm is destroyed by fire. The second concentration has the features of joy and pleasure like water. And the third concentration has the features of inhalation and exhalation like wind. When it comes to the fourth dhyana, it is free from 8 faults of meditative concentration. So the corresponding God realm won't be destroyed by fire, water, and wind. Since the God realm of the fourth meditative state won't be destroyed during the Great Kalpa, does this mean it is permanent? No, it doesn't. Longchenpa states in Wish-Fulfilling Treasury that beings in the God realms of the fourth meditative state will either move to another universe out of the power of Dharmata or die out. Therefore, everything below the God realm of the fourth concentration, whether it be the earth or the universe, ultimately has no true existence. Thus, all outer environments, including 100 countless 4 continents, Mount Meru and the heavenly realms in the 3,000-fold universe will come to their final destruction simultaneously. We can say that everything in the entire outer universe will become a great void. As the Buddha says in The Buddha Speaks of Impermanence, the earth, the sun, and the moon will all perish in due time. Not one thing in the world can escape impermanence. This means that the earth, the sun, and the moon, and all phenomena will eventually vanish and become like the realm of empty space. Indeed, there is not one single phenomenon in the entire world can be found which hasn't been devoured by the net of impermanence. Therefore, we should realize that all phenomena are impermanent, and this truth is very profound. Taranatha from Jonang School told a story in his History of Buddhism in India. Back in time, King Ashoka, after committing some misdeeds, to repent his past wrongdoings, he built 84,000 stupas. After completing all 84,000 stupas, he planned to make offerings to the Sangha and hold Dharma assemblies for 3 months to celebrate and dedicate the merit. At this time, he invited many monks. Among them was an elder, an old practitioner in whom he had great faith. King Ashoka intended to make grand and special offerings to this senior monk, including food offerings. Although this great elder had been ordained for 60 years and kept his precepts pure at the time of offering, he appeared quite dim-witted. And couldn't even explain the meaning of one single verse. Just after the meal offering, which was excellent, some monks said to the elder, "Do you know why King Ashoka made such special offerings to you today? Surely he will ask you to teach the Dharma after the meal." Then the elder became very anxious and thought to himself, "Oh no, I'm finished. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have eaten at all. But now, I've already eaten and can't back out anymore. I'm totally finished. I've been ordained so long. How terrible if I can't give a teaching." While he was suffering, struggling, and very distressed, there was a garden deity in the forest who was aware of the old bhikshu's thoughts. He thought, if the old bhikshu offers no teaching, would King Ashoka, after having done such a great virtuous deed, generate wrong views and lose faith? So the garden deity manifested into a human form and came to the old bhikshu, telling him, "Later, if the king makes supreme offerings to you and asks you for the teaching, you might not be able to say much else, but you should say this: the earth and the mountains will all perish. Let alone your throne. Your Majesty, please contemplate it carefully. You just need to say this one sentence." The old bhikshu was very relieved. After a while, King Ashoka came and made special offerings of many fine Kasaya's robes to this old practitioner, different from the other monks. This happens in Tibetan regions too. Special offerings are made to elder practitioners. For example, if there are 20 monks offering chanting services together today, among them there's a senior monk in the first seat, that is the priority seat. If others get 20 yuan from offering, then the monk in the first seat gets 40 yuan. Tibetan regions have this tradition, and maybe India was like this at that time too. Anyway, special offerings were made to that old practitioner, and King Ashoka requested teachings from him. The practitioner really didn't understand anything else and admitted his simplicity, but he repeated the words of the garden deity. He said, "The earth and the mountains will all perish in the end. Your Majesty, your throne too is impermanent. Please contemplate it carefully." Because King Ashoka was a person with virtuous roots, he continuously contemplated its meaning and felt that he gained great benefits. As a result, he attained a certain realization through this simple teaching. Then, the garden deity deliberately told the old practitioner, "You too, enjoy offerings from devotees every day. You should also contemplate this well." The old monk reflected on himself and agreed with the garden deity. So later, he sought out a new acharya teacher, received teachings from him, and within 3 months attained arhatship. This story is in the History of Buddhism in India. Thus, this teaching on impermanence is truly profound. So, when some Dharma friends go out to visit a place, and some wealthy patrons make grand offerings and then ask you to teach the Dharma, if you don't understand certain teachings at all, you can say, "Being a leader, your position is impermanent. Please think about it carefully. This is also a great teaching that will surely benefit him, provided he has faith. Here it says, if even vast billion-world universes can be destroyed completely, leaving only empty space, how could our human bodies, as fragile as autumn flies, have any lasting stability? This is the final teaching Patrul Rinpoche gives us for today. The whole cosmos of 1 billion worlds, whether Mount Meru or the 4 continents, will eventually vanish into void and leaving only space behind. In this way, our present human bodies are indeed no different from flies in autumn, like bubbles on water, nothing reliable, and certainly impermanent. Therefore, we must cultivate a conviction about impermanence. Buddhakarata, the act of the Buddha, says, fires of the kalpa of destruction can melt down Mount Meru, meaning the fire at the end of the kalpa will melt Mount Meru and evaporate all oceans. Let alone these human bodies of ours, which are like bubbles, then how can we expect our bodies to remain forever? Such illusory clinging is laughable. There are such scriptural references. Therefore, we should reflect that eventually the mountains will be destroyed, the oceans will be destroyed, and the whole world will be destroyed. So there is no need for us to grasp anything so tightly. In society nowadays, people don't have conviction about impermanence. They believe that houses exist inherently, bodies are inherently real, cars exist inherently, and everything is seen as inherently real. For these inherently existent things, they begin to develop inherent attachment, and failure will come to that person's practice. If we practice well on impermanence in advance, the arising and ceasing of external things like houses won't cause you much trouble. Therefore, we must contemplate the above principles carefully and truly put them into practice. I remember a verse from the Rules of Purity for Chan monasteries. One should practice Dharma diligently, as if to put out a fire on one's head. Just remain mindful of impermanence and cautious not to indulge in indolence. We should contemplate like this, and we must be diligent now. We cannot procrastinate on practice and keep putting it off. Tomorrow, the day after, next year, the year after. Now this won't work. Just as a pretty woman would put out a fire in her hair with the utmost speed, we should also contemplate and remain mindful of impermanence and practice diligently with the greatest urgency. Never let your days fritter away. This precious human form is truly hard to obtain, and we never know when we'll leave this world. So, in terms of engaging in virtuous activities, whenever you think of it, just do it right away and do not procrastinate any longer. If you keep postponing, you won't have this opportunity again. When it comes to negative actions, you can procrastinate a bit. For instance, if someone says, "Shall we do something bad?" you may say, "Let's talk about it tomorrow." But if someone says, "Shall we practice virtuous deeds?" then you can respond, "Yes, great, let's start now. Let's not delay, let's go. I'll get ordained. I'll start practicing virtue. All right, that's good for today."
Bandara